Viewers, now it is the beginning of a fantastic story. Let us make a journey to the Cave of Monsters. Because we're going to look at Bobble. Yay, everybody loves Bobble. This is from our good friends at Taito, released in November 1988. And let me tell you what, this is probably one of the most reported games I think I have ever seen. Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum, the Amiga, the Atari ST, the MSX, the Amstrad CPC, the Sharp X68000, PC, and DOS, both in 1989 and 1996, the Apple II, the FM Towns Marty, the Master System, the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance, the Nintendo DS, PlayStation, Sega Saturn, the NES, the Famicom Disk System, the Sega Game Gear, mobile phones, especially the Sprint PCS, the Texas Instrument TI-8X calculators, and Ultracade's Taito Arcade Classics. There's also a version on the BBC Micro on public domain, though it was never officially released. Whew. Now, out of all the original 8 and 16-bit ports, the only ones that were made by Taito themselves were the NES and the Game Boy ones. Sega converted Bobble for the Master System, although we never got that one in North America. The Commodore 64 and Spectrum versions were made by UK-based Firebird Software, and most of the other computer ports by the US-based Nova Logic. Funny story. 1996, Taito announced that they lost the original source code of Bobble. As Probe Entertainment was in charge of home conversions, Taito sent them a Bobble arcade so they could play the original game and reproduce its mechanics. This led to the release of Bobble, also featuring Rainbow Islands for the Saturn, PlayStation, and PC. The original Game Boy and Game Boy Color versions have a Moon Water storyline and are known as Bobble and Classic Bobble, respectively. In 2002, a homebrew version was released for the TI-83. In 2005, a version was released for the Xbox, PlayStation 2, and PC as part of the Taito Legends compilation of arcade games. At the end of 2006, a port was made of it for mobile phones in Europe and Japan. In 2007, the NES version was released on the Virtual Console. And during Christmas of 2011, a new version for the Amstrad CPC, entitled Bobble for CPC, or BB for CPC, was released for free by programmer CNG Soft as an update for the original and official CPC version, which had been criticized for its lackluster implementation and underuse of the system's hardware potential. Whew. Mean Machines gave the Game Boy part of this game 91%. Noting that while some changes have been made, the game played identical to the original arcade port and provides much addiction and challenge. The Spectrum version was also voted number 58 in the Your Sinclair Reader's Top 100 Games of All Time. And this is a pretty damn good game. So these are two hungry DINO-MIGHTS, viewers. And they've got bubble fighting fun down tight. You and your two brontosaurus buddies, Bub and Bob, are up to your brows in bubble troubles. You've got to battle battalions of bullies by blowing and bursting billions of bubbles. It's a fast-paced bubble banquet through over 100 screens of slap-happy suds. Got an appetite for fun? Then get blowin'. That's what the box says. So, as we have mentioned, Taito did this. It was first an arcade game, later ported to all those millions of other systems, 982 to be exact, different systems this appears on. Game starring the Bubble Dragons, Bub and Bob. This is obviously an action platform game where we travel through 100 different stages, blowing and bursting bubbles, dodging enemies, and collecting a variety of items. The game, incredibly popular, and has a long series of sequels and spin-offs. The main goal of the game is to rescue Bub and Bob's girlfriends from robots, among other enemies. It is also notable for being an early example of a game with multiple endings, which depended on the player's skill in discovering secrets. Now, if you've played the NES game all the way through, or have seen it play through, you will know that the final boss of the game, because there is one, is not a robot. I believe that was an arcade game feature. So, in each game, each player controls one of the two bubble dragons, Bub and Bob. We can move along platforms as well as jump to those above and to the side, just like a platform game. We can also blow bubbles. These can trap enemies who are defeated if the bubble is then burst by the player spinning back or by jumping on it. Bubbles that contain enemies can be popped at the same time, resulting in different foods being projected around the level. Each enemy trapped in a bubble equates to a different food. Food is consumed and transferred to points. An increasing scale of 1,000 points is awarded for each enemy burst in tandem with another, meaning one enemy is 1,000 points, two enemies is two food items worth 1,000 and 2,000, three is 1, 2, and 4,000, and so on, which results in getting higher points for lives. The same bubbles also float for a time before bursting and can be jumped on, allowing access to otherwise inaccessible areas. It will do you well to learn the bubble jump, viewers. Players progress to the next level once all enemies on the current level are defeated. Enemies turn angry, becoming pink-colored and moving faster if they are the last enemy remaining. Escape from a bubble after being left too long or a certain amount of time has been spent on the current level. A monster will also become angry if either player collects a skull, the only negative item in the game, which may not have been in the NES one. I don't remember seeing it. And the monster is hit by the resulting comet crossing the screen. However, this is a rare occurrence, so maybe I've just missed it. In all my years, never seen the skull in Bubble Bobble. After a further time limit expires, an additional invincible enemy appears for each player, actively chasing them using only vertical and horizontal movements. These do not need to be defeated to complete the level and disappear once a player's life is lost. Contacts with enemies and their projectiles results in death. The game's music was written by Japanese team Zuntata, Peter Clark, Tim Follin, and David Whitaker, because David Whitaker is a traditional Japanese name. Actually, that's a lie. Zuntata did the music. Peter, Tim, and Dave converted it for the home computer ports. We're having fun. What can I tell you about Bubble Bobble that you don't already know? It is an amazingly fun game. It has got an incredibly simple idea, an incredibly simple playstyle, incredibly simple graphics, incredibly simple music. And for all of those reasons, it is incredibly simple to sit down, play, and have a lot of fun with.